part of the reason that we want to get the both of you here is that I think there's very few companies in crypto that have gone through kind of a major scale up, and and OpenSea is one of them. And then OpenSea also is in a market that, like crypto itself, it had a lot of ups and downs. And so with the benefit of hindsight, I think there's probably a lot of lessons learned that we can kind of pass on to the next generation, having gone through that experience. So that's why we brought you both here today.
Speaking generally, not just for engineering management hires, there comes a point where you feel this pain of being the bottleneck, where whoever is the de facto manager, which starts as the CEO, realizes that they are bottlenecking the whole organization. And having that self-awareness of when you've become the bottleneck is really important, and it starts at the CEO. It starts at really all the co-founders. So identifying that, I think, for me, is the clearest sign that you should hire. It might be even a following lead, not a leading indicator, but the opposite, a trailing indicator of when you need to hire. And I think for an early startup, it's a really good indicator. It's not, if you want to hire slowly and keep your team high talent density, which I believe most of the time you should do, then the moment you feel like you're the bottleneck, the next question is, who's it going to be?
First of all, first principles question, do you need to hire an engineering manager? That's the very first question you should ask yourself is do you actually need to do this? So I think a great heuristic is what Alex brought up, is this question of are you becoming the bottleneck as the CEO, as the technical co-founder? It's a great signal to start to think about that. I suspect that a lot of people start to hire engineering managers more so because they have money, or because they feel I've reached a series, whatever, and now I should be able to, I gotta go hire the VP of engineering, I gotta go hire an engineering manager so I can focus on strategy and all this sort of stuff. You should ask yourself if you really actually need to do that, because as technical companies, incompetence and talent density and culture of your engineering team is probably one of the top two things that's most important. And so you should really ask yourself as a founder whether or not that's something you want to start delegating away until until you have a culture and a set of norms that are extremely congealed and stable to actually build on top. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all culture. You kind of got to decide what matters to you. Are you guys going to be we grind, we are just output, we hack, we ship, we're just move fast and break things, or are you a Amazon style culture, you write everything in a doc, everybody reads it synchronously, you're super hyper rigorous, but you make sure to that be very metered and long-term sustainable in terms of your work. That's all just so contextual in the company itself and the sort of company you want to build. And there are successful models in all of those. What I would say is that I wish that I'd been more deliberate about that, and I had said to myself, this is what I want. And then A, codified that, B, communicated that to people, C, made sure to regularly check in with myself, is everybody actually behaving this way? And if so, yes, great. If not, why not? I have a very specific and tactical answer because we just went through a cycle trying to figure out the best way of doing this. If you want to be actually very quantitative about it, there's a variety of different frameworks that exist. There is what's called Durham metrics. If any of you ever worked in traditional engineering organizations, that will track. Essentially, it's this composite metric that tracks your engineering team's productivity. That's more a DevOps legal thing, so it might not be right for your organization. What I've found to be really, really helpful is there are tools out there that are what are called GitOps tools, essentially, or Git analytics tools, where you can just it basically gives you a better version of the GitHub heat map for your engineers. Now you should never measure people's performance or turn that into a performance review type of thing, on the basis of what the heat map looks like, because contribution velocity, commit velocity is not necessarily like the best measure of productivity, but it's really good at identifying outliers. And that's really, really helpful. It's like, you look at this thing and you're like, oh, very clearly I can see that this person is not contributing as much, right? Or I can see very clearly we checked in 400 PRs last week and we've only checked in 100 this week. What's going on, right? And what's really helpful, I think, is if you make it you don't make it this thing where it's like, oh, the CEO or the CTO is looking at all my commits secretly in the background and judging me on the basis of them. No, actually just make it a team-wide thing where you're hey, let's all look at this together. How are we doing right now? Oh, look, it looks like we've been checking in more code than ever before. How awesome. It's oh, we're slowing down. Why are we slowing down? Make it a shared goal, essentially. So something that everybody owns together as opposed to a tool of accountability.
Sometimes managers don't give them feedback. It's just kind of a basic thing. The feedback feels oh, I'll just save that for when things get bad. And it's not delivered quickly and in real time to the person. Delivering your feedback quickly and in real time, setting up a one-on-one if it's needed, is just super, super, super critical. And just make it a really key tenet for your company if you can. And having feedback roll up into documents that are delivered 2 weeks later, and just not fit with it. And I think you just lose a lot, and it just forgets. It also adds all this management work, and it makes you hire managers that you don't know.